The institution of pilgrimage features in all religions of the world, but the sites for pilgrimage are scattered at different places in one or more countries. It is only in Islam that there exists a single central place which all the followers of the faith must visit at least once in their lifetime, provided that it is safe to do so and he or she has the financial means and is in good enough health to perform this sacred duty. This place is the blessed city of Mecca, where Muslims from all over the world are expected to gather and spend about 10 days entirely dedicated to the memory of God. The pilgrims come from all countries, all nations, all races, and in all ages. This pilgrimage in Islam is called Hajj, which literally means to set out for a place. The object of Hajj is the attainment of righteousness, and the Holy Quran emphasizes that the mere observance of the rites undertaken in Hajj are meaningless unless they are accompanied by a spirit of righteousness. And fear Allah, and know that Allah is severe in punishing. Chapter 2, verse 197. Hajj is performed during the Muslim month of Dhul Hijj, which comes 2 months after the festival of Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is the ceremony that concludes the end of the month of Ramadan, or the month of fasting. During this month, Muslims do not eat or drink from dawn to dusk. The institution of pilgrimage can be traced back to the time of Abraham, peace be upon him. But there are very clear statements in the Quran describing it as an ancient institution starting from times immemorial. In the olden times, Mecca was pronounced Baka, so the Holy Quran refers to the first house as being built not in Mecca but in Baka. It is also called Al-Baytul Atiq, or the most ancient house. The Hajj rituals center on the Kaaba in Mecca in Saudi Arabia. The Kaaba is the focal point of the Hajj, and according to the Holy Quran, is the first house of God ever to be built on earth for the worship of the one true God. We do not know exactly when the Kaaba was built, but it is believed that this ancient house of worship existed before the time of Abraham, peace be upon him, but had fallen into ruin. Under Allah's divine command, Abraham, peace be upon him, and his son, Ishmael, peace be upon him, rebuilt the Kaaba. In one of the corner walls of the Kaaba, there is a black stone which is believed to be a meteorite. The Kaaba is rectangular shaped and is 44 feet by 33 feet and stands 45 feet tall. It is surrounded by the mosque Baytul Haram. The Kaaba is covered with a mantle of heavy black silk which is renewed every year. The Kaaba is respected by all Muslims of the world and is the direction to which they face during the 5 daily prayers. Hajj begins when the pilgrim reaches certain designated places close to Mecca. At that point, known as Miqat, the pilgrim puts on 2 seamless white sheets wide enough to cover the entire body. Female pilgrims wear their normal dress, which covers the body from head to toe, but the face remains uncovered. From the moment the pilgrim enters this state, all worldly affairs are prohibited. Fighting, quarreling, and hunting are forbidden. This is known as the state of being in ihram. The simplicity of the dress of the pilgrims suggests that this tradition is most ancient. It indicates that the institution of Hajj began when human beings had not learnt to wear sewn clothes and had only started to cover themselves. As such, it seems that it is in memory of those ancient people who used to circuit the first house built for the worship of God, in that the same preliminary is put on. Ihram is also symbolic of rebirth, as the sheets are like the shroud that is used to cover the dead. This condition reminds the pilgrims that they are here, as it were, symbolically arisen from the dead. The pilgrims then start to recite the talbiyah aloud, which consists of the following: Here we come, O God, here we come. No partner have you, here we come. Indeed, the pilgrim makes the journey towards Mecca and should be in constant state of prayer, asking for Allah's forgiveness. On entering Mecca, the pilgrims perform the first tawaf, or circuit, which consists of going around the Kaaba 7 times in an anti-clockwise direction. After completing the tawaf, the pilgrims perform the sa'i, which consists of running between the 2 little hillocks of Safa and Marwa, located near the Kaaba. This is done in memory of Hazrat Hajra, as she ran between the hillocks of Safa and Marwa in search for water for her baby son Ishmael, when Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, had to leave her there on divine command. The child is described as having become extremely restive with the agony of thirst, striking the earth with his heels in desperation. There, it is said, sprouted a fountain which still exists today in some form. The act of running between Safa and Marwa also remind the pilgrims how God provides for His servants even in the solitude of a great wilderness. After performing the sa'i, the pilgrims move to Mina, a plain located about 4 miles east of Mecca, and spend the night there. Mina means an object or desire, and reminds the pilgrim that he goes there with the object or desire of meeting God. Next morning, the pilgrims leave for the Plain of Arafat, located 9 miles southeast of Mecca. They arrive at Arafat in the early afternoon, say the combined Zohar and Asr prayers, and listen to a sermon given by the Imam. The pilgrims stay in the Plain of Arafat only till sunset. This is the same plain where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, delivered his farewell sermon. Here he reminded those gathered about the equality of all of mankind. After sunset, the pilgrims leave Arafat and come to Muzdalifah, which means nearness. Here, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, used to observe the Maghrib and Isha prayers, and also offered special prayers before the rising of the sun. This is therefore a place specially meant for meditation and prayer in Hajj. On reaching Muzdalifah, the pilgrims observe their combined Maghrib and Isha prayers and spend the night there. In the morning, after saying the Fajr prayer, the pilgrims return to Mina once again. The pilgrims reach Mina on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah. This is the busiest day of the pilgrimage. The first ceremony that is performed at Mina is the throwing of small stones, or Rami al-Jamarat. In this ceremony, the pilgrims throw stones at 3 pillars. These represent the three stages of human life. The first pillar symbolizes the present world, the second, the grave, and the third, the life after death. The casting of pebbles is symbolic of casting out Satan and driving out evil thoughts from one's mind. The 10th day of Dhul Hijjah is also the day when pilgrims sacrifice their animals. This day is also celebrated all over the Muslim world as the festive day of Eid al-Adha. The sacrifice is done in memory of the sacrifice that the Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, was prepared to make of his son Ishmael, peace be upon him, and serves to remind the pilgrims that they should be ever willing not only to sacrifice themselves, but also their wealth and all that is dear to them for the sake of God. After performing the sacrifice, male pilgrims have their heads shaved or their hair clipped. After this, they emerge from the state of ihram by wearing their everyday clothes. The shaving of the head is an important feature which is also universally found as a symbol of dedication among monks, priests, hermits, and Vishnus. Women are exempt from shaving, but they have to symbolically cut their hair. After this, the pilgrims return once again to Mina, where they stay until the 12th or 13th day of Dhul Hijjah. During these 2 or 3 days, the pilgrims continue to perform the ceremony of Rami al-Jamarat, or throwing of stones. Before the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah ends, the pilgrims perform another sa'i between the hills of Safa and Marwa. On the afternoon of the 12th Dhul Hijjah, the pilgrims return to Mecca for the last ceremony of the pilgrimage. This ceremony consists of the farewell tawaf of the Kaaba, a part of the prescribed pilgrimage. Many pilgrims carry on to Medina and visit Masjid al-Nabwi, or the Prophet's Mosque. It was in the compound of this mosque that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was buried. While the Hajj may only be performed during the prescribed dates of the month of Dhul Hijjah, a lesser pilgrimage called Umrah may be performed individually at any time during the year. Umrah is a visit to Mecca at any time during the year in the state of ihram to perform the circuits of the Kaaba and the running between the hillocks, Safa and Marwa.
لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد